Good morning, ladies. Happy Wednesday. I hope this message finds you well. Working from home today. However, I'm up. Gonna get this Bible study on. A lot to do today, but I'm happy. Potential play date. We have volleyball again this Saturday, which is a new sport for Scarlett. She wanted to try it out, which she's doing well, so I can't complain. My boy calls today. I got to see him in less than 30 days for Parent Day. I slept decent, so right now I'm feeling great. I take the days as they come. But before we start the day, Bible study that we are going to put in, because honestly, if you start off with the word, the day feels a heck of a lot better. And I've noticed that for the few days that I have been skipping out on it. So we are in Deuteronomy chapter 11, 12, and 13 today. And verse 1 goes like this. Therefore you shall love the Lord your God and keep his charge, his statutes, his judgments, and his commandments always. Know today that I do not speak with your children who have not known and who have not seen the chastening of the Lord your God, his greatness and his mighty hand and his outstretched arm. Verse 3, his signs and his acts which he did in the midst of Egypt, to Pharaoh king of Egypt, and to all his land. What he did to the army of Egypt, to their horses and their chariots, how he made the waters of the Red Sea overflow them as they pursued you, and how the Lord has destroyed them to this day. What he did for you in the wilderness until you came to this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, the son of Reuben, how the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, their households, their tents, and all the substance that was in their possession in the midst of all Israel. But your eyes have seen every great act of the Lord which he did. Verse 8, therefore you shall keep every commandment which I command you today, that you may be strong, and go in and possess the land which you cross over to possess, and that you may prolong your days in the land which the Lord swore to give to your fathers, to them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land which you go to possess is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have come, where you sowed your seed and watered it by foot as a vegetable garden. But the land which you cross over to possess is a land of hills and valleys, which drinks water from the rain of heaven, a land for which the Lord your God cares. The eyes of the Lord your God are always on it, from the beginning of the year to the very end of the year. And it shall be that you earnestly obey my commandments, which I command you today, to love the Lord your God and serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. Then I will give you the rain for your land in its season, the early rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your grain, your new wine, and your oil. And I will send grass in your fields for your livestock, that you may eat and be filled. Verse 16, take heed to yourselves, lest your heart be deceived, and you turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. Lest the Lord's anger be aroused against you, and he shut up the heavens so that there will be no rain, and the land yield no produce, and you perish quickly from the good land which the Lord has given you. Therefore, you shall lay up these words of mine in your heart and in your soul, and bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall teach them to your children, speaking of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, that your days and the days of your children may be multiplied in the land of which the Lord swore to your fathers to give them, like the days of the heavens above the earth. For if you carefully keep all these commandments which I command you to do, and to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, and to hold fast to him, then the Lord will drive out all these nations from before you, and you will dispossess greater and mightier nations than yourselves. Every place on which the sole of your foot treads shall be yours. From the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even to the western sea shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand against you. The Lord your God will put the dread of you and the fear of you upon all the land where you tread, just as he said to you. Verse 26, behold, I set before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you today. Verse 28, and the curse if you do not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn away from the way which I command you today, to go after other gods which you have not yet known. Now it shall be, when the Lord your God has brought you into the land which you go to possess, that you shall put the blessing on Mount Gerizim and the curse on Mount Ebal. Are they not on the other side of the Jordan towards the setting sun, in the land of the Canaanites who dwell in the plain opposite Gilgal, beside the terebinth tree of Moreh? For you will cross over the Jordan and go in to possess the land which the Lord your God is giving you, and you will possess it and dwell in it. And last verse for this chapter, verse 32, and you shall be careful to observe all the statutes and judgments which I sent before you today. A prescribed place of worship is what we're going to be talking about in Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 1. These are the statutes and judgments which you shall be careful to observe in the land which the Lord God of your fathers is giving you to possess all the days that you live on earth. You shall utterly destroy all the places where the nations which you shall dispossess served their gods, on the high mountains and on the hills and under every green tree. And you shall destroy their altars, break their sacred pillars, and burn their wooden images with fire. You shall cut down the carved images of their gods and destroy their names from that place. Verse 4, you shall not worship the Lord your God with such things. But you shall seek the place where the Lord your God chooses out of all your tribes to put his name for his dwelling place, and there you shall go. There you shall take burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, the heave offerings of your hand, your vowed offerings, your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. Verse 7, and there you shall eat before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice in all to which you have put in your hand, you and your households in which the Lord your God has blessed you. You shall not at all do as we are doing here today, every man doing whatever is right in his own eyes, for as yet you have not come to the rest and the inheritance which the Lord your God is giving you. Verse 10, but when you cross over the Jordan and dwell in the land which the Lord your God is giving you to inherit, and he gives you rest from all your enemies round about, so that you dwell in safety, then there will be the place where the Lord your God chooses to make his name abide. There you shall bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, and your tithes, the heave offerings of your hand, and all your choice offerings, which you vow to the Lord. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, and your sons and your daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levite who's within your gates, since he has no portion nor inheritance with you. Take heed to yourself that you do not offer your burnt offerings in every place that you see, but in the place where the Lord chooses in one of your tribes, there you shall offer your burnt offerings, and there you shall do all that I command you. Verse 15, however, you may slaughter and eat meat within all your gates, whatever your heart desires, according to the blessing of the Lord your God, which he has given you. The unclean and the clean may eat of it, of the gazelle and the deer alike. Only you shall not eat the blood. You shall pour it on earth like water. You may not eat within your gates the tithe of your grain or your new wine or your oil for the firstborn of your herd or your flock, of any of your offerings which you vow, or your freewill offerings, or of the heave offering of your hand. But you must eat them before the Lord your God in a place which the Lord your God chooses, you and your son and your daughter, your male servant and your female servant, and the Levite who is within your gates, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God in all to which you put your hands. Take heed to yourself that you do not forsake the Levite as long as you live your land. When the Lord your God enlarges your border as he has promised you, and you say, let me eat meat, because you long to eat meat, you may eat as much meat as your heart desires. Verse 21, but if the place where the Lord your God chooses to put his name is too far from you, then you may slaughter from your herd and from your flock, which the Lord has given you, just as I have commanded you, and you may eat within your gates as much as your heart desires. Verse 22, just as the gazelle and the deer are eaten, so you may eat them. The unclean and the clean alike may eat them. Only be sure that you do not eat the blood, for the blood is the life. You may not eat the life with the meat. You shall not eat it. You shall pour it on the earth like water. You shall not eat it, that it may go well with you and your children after you, when you do what is right in the sight of the Lord. Verse 26, only the holy things which you have and your vowed offerings you shall take and go to the place where the Lord chooses. And you shall offer your burnt offerings and the meat and the blood on the altar of the Lord your God, and the blood of your sacrifices shall be poured out on the altar of the Lord your God, and you shall eat the meat. Observe and obey all these words which I command you, that it may go well with you and your children after you forever, when you do what is good and is right in the sight of the Lord your God. Verse 29, when the Lord your God cuts off from before you the nations which you go to dispossess, and you displace them and dwell in their land, take heed to yourself that you are not ensnared to follow them, after they are destroyed from before you, and that you do not inquire after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? I also will do likewise. You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way, for every abomination to the Lord which he hates they have done to their gods, for they burn even their sons and daughters in the fire to their gods. Whatever I command you, be careful to observe it, and you shall not add it nor take away from it. You shall not add it or take away from it. I feel like sometimes even the Bible in today's world, everybody just wants to just take away from some things, sprinkle some things to make it convenient for themselves. However, we can't be doing that. Don't get me wrong. I've been there. I have been there and trying to make this fit with how I want to live. But I assure you, the mountain of trials and tribulations I have been through in life, it's just not worth it. Those doors opened when you just do different things and just make the Bible however it is that you feel like and interpret it in your own way, when in reality it's just a harsh way of explaining things, but in a just way, because he's a loving God. However, you get what I mean. All right, we are in our last chapter, Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 1. It goes like this. If there arises among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder comes to pass, of which he spoke to you, saying, let us go after other gods, which you have not known, and let us serve them, you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Verse 4, you shall walk away after the Lord your God and fear him and keep his commandments and obey his voice, and you shall serve him and hold fast to him. But that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has spoken in order to turn you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you from the house of bondage, to entice you from the way in which the Lord your God commanded you to walk. So you shall put away the evil from your midst. If your brother, the son of your mother, or your son or your daughter, the wife of your bosom, or your friend who is as your own soul, secretly entices you, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which you have not known, neither you nor your fathers, of the gods of the people which are all around you, near to you or far from you, from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth, you shall not consent to him or listen to him, nor shall your eye pity him, nor shall you spare him or conceal him, but you shall surely kill him. Your hand shall be first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. Verse 10, and you shall stone him with stones until he dies, because he sought to entice you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. So all Israel shall hear and fear, and not again do such wickedness as this among you. If you hear someone in one of your cities which the Lord your God gives you to dwell in, saying, corrupt men have gone out from among you and entice the inhabitants of their cities, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which you have not known, then you shall inquire, search out, and ask diligently. And if it is indeed true and is certain, and that such an abomination was committed among you, you shall surely strike the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, utterly destroying it, all that is in it and its livestock, with the edge of the sword. Verse 16, and you shall gather all its plunder into the middle of the street and completely burn with fire the city and all its plunder for the Lord your God. It shall be a heap forever. It shall not be built again. So none of the accursed things shall remain in your hand, that the Lord may turn from the fierceness of his anger and show you mercy, have compassion on you, and multiply you, just as he swore to your fathers. Verse 18, because you have listened to the voice of the Lord your God, to keep all his commandments, which I command you today, to do what is right in the eyes of the Lord your God. And that is all for today's Bible study, ladies. I hope it's feeding your soul. It feeds my soul. You know, sometimes, excuse me, oh, I'm so tired. Sometimes we worry about what other people think, and we worry about what they might say, or even, family, friends, coworkers. However, the best thing I can say to you, and I feel like it needs, for whatever reason, conviction to be said, listen to the word for yourself. The Bible and God is for you. Your salvation is only yours. Okay. Your children at a certain point will then have to take on their own salvation. So do your diligence of teaching them. But once they get to a certain age too, they're held responsible for their own salvation. So God wants us, of course, in heaven. Jesus died on the cross for us. So that way, yes, he knew we were going to live sinful lives. I'm sure Jesus knew that we were going to live sinful lives. Okay, I've done my own in my lifetime. However, the eternity of hell, and even before I really started diving into more into my spiritual walk with God and Jesus, and just learning and doing all the things, I already knew there is going to be a hell. Like, I'm sure that everybody has. I mean, how do you not think, with the world created, with everything that is, okay, all the billions of stars and this and that, to think that we have galaxies we can't see amongst all this other stuff? How could you not think that there's a place that people that have bad souls and that have bad hearts don't go to? I don't know how we just don't see that, because it's a very plausible possibility. I understand, without, proof of someone seeing it, to believe it. However, believe it. Believe it. Believe it. Follow him. Pray to him. Ask God to show you whatever signs and things that you need to see for yourself to understand. But we need him as much as we need him, more than the world needs us. Let's just say that. However, let's just have a great day. Let's have a great day. Stay blessed. Stay prayed up. Watch your surroundings. It's crazy sometimes out there, but let's have an amazing day. Let's try to the best of our abilities to do so. If you need any prayer, please send me a message. Love talking to you, ladies, but we'll talk soon. Bye.